Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 21st of November to the 27th of November. Well, I'm gonna upload this as a separate reaction video, but I'll just shout it out, call attention to. I reacted to Captain Mack's video on One Piece is a terrible anime, and I can only get 15 minutes or so into it. I was pretty tapped out, really. I just think, he can have that opinion. It's not a very unusual opinion to have, really. So I would have liked more interesting or in-depth reason and discussion and good faith argument. But it's clearly he just really hates it and has just kind of bashes it very needlessly and shallowly, not very entertaining or interesting in that way. I really wish he just made a Land of the Lustrous video, because he clearly cares more about that and has more interesting, valuable, insightful, interesting things to say. I may have repeated myself there. A couple of interesting things to say about that. But this was just way all over the place, not presenting One Piece in any like the anime in any good faith proper way, really. Any animation that he's showing, he's just looping it. We're not showing it in a proper context. It's so many screenshots and not really he's not engaging with it in a good faith way. I don't think the craft and the structure of the argument, especially towards the beginning of the video, all the different things he's saying where he's like, I've only watched up to Zoe. Like, then why should I listen to you? You know what I mean? Like, and especially just the fact that like he's just going to focus on certain aspects when it's a really big fucking show. There's just, obviously I talk about it in there, but no, I didn't, especially just seeing the time codes where it was later. I'm like, I don't think this is it, Chief. But not that that's going to stop people from liking this video, because people blindly like this, without giving any good reason why. Or maybe they don't. I don't know. So, yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't finish that video. Not very respectful of me. I apologize. But I just have time management things to do and take care of. So, yeah, I can only give you 80 minutes of reaction. So, yeah. But we're really going to start with videos that I thought were decent. Pretty good. And these were some tracking shots. I don't think I've talked about their channel before. And they linked it under the clip that I posted from last week's digest about showing the anime as a proxy for the manga, and it like proceeds to make that or whatever. But it's a YKK video, cool. You show plenty of the manga, you're good. Like I fully engaged and believed it. If you sporadically show shots of the anime, that's fine, and it doesn't detract from your point all that much. Although it does kind of call the question, like, is there really not much of the manga for you to show? That, like, why I just couldn't see a reason for showing the anime, really, if you're not going to refer to it or engage with it, really. I feel like this could, and it didn't feel like you were using the anime all that much to really consider it a shortcut or a proxy, which is fine. So it was just the little bits. I wasn't bothered by it, really. But it does call that into question, be like, why do they use the anime at all if like you show most of the manga anyway? I don't know. Regardless, I like the vid. The detour to Call of the Night was interesting and unexpected. But I like the focus and the kind of like, it's sort of your discovery of Iyashikei in this particular genre and everything. Or this subset of slice of life series. I like that you're not trying to make really big grand claims or anything like that, and it's just kind of you navigating and exploring it. I do think this video could have done better with more concrete examples. I really like how you start the video with giving these 3 different scenes of like how they end, and kind of gives you a vibe of the kind of story this is. I think that was great. I also like you bringing up the example of like when the gasoline goes bad and all that sort of thing. I think those moments when you're giving concrete examples are when the video is strongest. And this is not news for people who have been watching Digest lately, but I've been realizing this about video making with essay stuff. It is so much stronger when you are talking about specifics. When you give, like, in this chapter, this character, And I'm not saying you need to info dump or summarize or do any of that necessarily. But in so talking, giving these examples and stuff, those are the strongest. I think is when you're engaging with the material directly. I think. So it could be even better with more structure and more in that lane basically. So if like kind of giving the video a spine or is something for the audience to follow. So kind of I hate to give example from my own. Oh, do what I did. I hate to be kind of facetious. I don't know if facetious is the word. Pretentious. I don't know, maybe. But what I had a difficult time when I wanted to make a kaiji video about the aesthetics, about the art, about like how Fukumoto tells the story. It's not like about the story necessarily. It's the framing and the presentation of it. And obviously wanted to make it kind of more based on the manga because that's where most of it originates. And I was having a difficult time because I had so many of these different points that I wanted to mention. But like, how do it didn't feel like it had a grip or a flow to it. And around that time, Tonegawa was announced for an anime. Had just been announced for getting an anime release. And so I checked out the first chapter of that, and it had all of the trademarks of what I wanted to talk about. So I was like, oh, I can just go through the first chapter page by page and use that as an order of like, here's the points that I want to talk about. Stuff like that. So that's one example of like a spine or a structure of the video with a flow so that the audience can follow that. And it kind of burns those points into their head a little better. Whereas this one, it's like the way it detours to Call of the Night is interesting and kind of a nice break of pace, but it also feels very out of place. It's like, oh, and I kind of disengaged with it almost because I was sort of like in the frame of mindset of learning more about YKK. Then I'm talking about this other thing. I'm like, I mean, cool, Call of the Night's cool or whatever, but it's not what I clicked on. You know what I mean? And not to say that I'm fickle, picky, something like that, I guess. It's just that I think you were doing such a good job with that bulk of the video and at the point in which it comes. And I guess, and maybe I'd have to rewatch it or something, the way you started bringing it up, and it felt like, okay, why are we bringing this up? Is it a point of contrast? Is it like to demonstrate or the thing the other thing you're talking about? It kind of felt like, oh, I read this other thing too. Now that I'm thinking about it, you know what I mean? It didn't feel like, why are we talking about this? Because like, that's a balance to do. Because it's like, yeah, I want to bring up this thing. Mack's video did this a lot actually. The more I'm thinking a lot, but like, he's trying to make a point, and he pulls from something. He pulls from The Simpsons, pulls from Vinland Saga, pulls from and it was all very sporadic and very scatterbrained and random. You really kind of have to be very selective. But the contrast that I'm thinking of is, again, from my own experience, I think about the brief moment at which I'm talking about Rick and Morty in my Gurren Lagann video. That seems very left field and whoa. But I'm really the intention is I'm following a point of like, here's the thing, and I kind of like, I make a point like, sorry for the cultural whiplash for a second, but that was the case for this show. And then I stop. It was like 10 seconds or less. It was like a really quick aside. But it really, like, this was a whole section of the video Call of the Night, and then you're talking about, yeah, it turns into a battle shonen, and I'm like, okay, but how did this suddenly turn into a Call of the Night video? Okay. But I get it. This is art, right? You can kind of do whatever, and that's fine. And it is, like I said, I think it's towards the start. And yeah, on my initial and my impact, it's like, it is kind of left field curveball, baseball terms. Refreshing, kind of different take. Like, oh, I didn't expect that. But it's like, to what end does that the lead of the result of that, I guess. Not to say you shouldn't do that or whatever, but it's more like, okay, the execution of that, I was just like, yeah, a little to be desired. I preferred the YKK stuff, basically. Yeah, no, I did like the video though. It was a comfy time, and you edited it really well. I think the scans are great, like really great quality. With like, you were able to fill the whole screen with a lot of scenes and stuff, and that can be really difficult with manga, especially ones that are so segmented and paneled, right? I think this looked really, really good. Yeah, it's a nice vid. Chang, haven't talked about it in a while, I don't think. He's talking about manpu and other gag expressions, and this piqued my interest very much because I had an idea for this, if kind of as a tangent of my slam dunk video, that I was like, I wanted to kind of make this point that the anime adopts Inoue's chibi designs as a appealing and cost-effective technique, and I'm happy that Chang kind of enforces that point towards the beginning of the video here, that manpu and these gag expressions are used as visual shorthands and that are easier to draw, and you don't have to make something super complicated and everything, and so it's a time saver. It's a cost effective measure. So we're referring to what I'm talking about, but then spends most of the video drawing and demonstrating certain things, really giving a lot of good details, like describing a long face, like someone who's like kind of depressed face. He's like, the mouth is super low to the thing, like their jaw's dropping, and then their eyes are about this level, and their head shape is long to kind of simulate kind of this elongated whatever. So every design choice, and not just kind of drawing if, oh, it looks sad, whatever. These really going bit by bit, and like, this is why we kind of do it the way we do, and describing it, the bigger the better for the sweat drops and stuff like that. So it was really informative. I'm so happy with the success he's getting. I hope this video does really well and hopefully can push him to 100K. He really deserves it. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I like it. It was good. I can only get so much out of it because it's a lot of montage of him drawing stuff. It isn't giving a ton of, it's not packed with examples or something like that, or giving a big thing of history or an analysis or something. But it is sort of a, how-to drawing of sorts, and it's good. I really do like it though, and I'm happy he gave us a term, that there's an existing term for the anger marks or sweat drops and stuff like that. Manpu. I'll remember that. Thank you. We Heart Giant Robots. I'm sorry I don't know the duo's name exactly. It's probably in their bio somewhere, but usually it's a duo, and it's like a conversation thing, kind of similar to Weeb Crew, except for these guys focus mainly on the big robots, the big mecha. But this was a solo effort by one of them, and I'm sorry I don't know his name exactly. And maybe it wasn't quite maybe it wasn't a solo effort. Like, he does the scripting and performance, and then the other guy edits. I'm not sure. It didn't really have it didn't have those kinds of credits in the description. But so it seemed like there's a one-man thing for this one. And they're talking about Your Name director, Makoto Shinkai's Voices of a Distant Star, which of course they put the creator of Your Name made a Mack OVA, and they can't really, the Voices of a Distant Star is not going to get clicks. I'm sorry, it's just as what it is. But this was decent. I would say that the weird thing about it was kind of the intro is super long. It was very formulaic, trying to get like, how do I start talking about Shinkai? Prestige, Oscar, they don't take animation that seriously. And I'm like, it felt very left field. I think with the audience you have, they're not new to anime, right? I think if you said Your Name, they probably know what that is, and so it's like, you kind of start with Makoto Shinkai, and he's like a Suzume, people probably know that, but they don't know his first work. And I'm happy, obviously, they're talking about this. It's great. And the commentary on the community reception of like various Mao reviews talking shit about the animation and shit like that was really funny. A lot of his clip meme reactions were really good and funny. I don't know what clip, what it was from, but it was like this guy yelling at someone. It was like a Mao profile picture, and just like, he made this using rocks and sticks, or like something like, he was able to make this with scraps or something. Just the fact, referring to Shinkai. I'm sorry to explain the joke. Referring to Shinkai doing all the stuff himself, a lot of that stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have too much to say substance-wise, because it really was fairly routine. I think it really was just kind of like going through what it's about and the making of it. But I think that the things that were special and kind of different that stuck out to me were the things that I don't normally see that often, which is that community reception part, and also the aesthetics of this video. I love them. I really do. I really do love watching all of their videos because they have that particular VHS retro, and they really commit to it. They don't just kind of like, it's not like just the intro or something. Every shot looks like that, like very filtered and fuzzy and retro and neon colored, relying a lot on their PNG, their avatar character with the halo of sound and everything. They usually have the two of them, kind of Pop T Bebic style, but it's just the one. He's just kind of standing there and talking and everything. But I think everything felt relative footage and everything. One thing I will. Now I'm thinking about it, with the visual filter and aesthetic and everything, it did kind of come out of nowhere when you started talking about Voices of a Distant Star, because everything is in the same filter. It doesn't feel like a step. Oh, here it is. Wow, what's this? And you're presenting this title to your audience. I think that's part of the utility of a video like this, is for people who had not been exposed to this thing before, they should see it for themselves, and that filter kind of prevents them from doing that, and might also they might not register that it's different from, because the filter is so heavy and thick. It's a thick filter, and I get that for copyright or whatever, but I don't know why you'd be worried about copyright for Voices of a Distant Star, if I'm going to be honest. But yeah, that was the thing for me, is like I didn't feel like I got enough exposure. I've seen it, don't get me wrong, but it was years ago. So would have liked more engrossing of the aesthetic and the visuals itself, of the thing itself that you're talking about, just as a way to expose your audience to that thing, and not just as a constant at an arm's length of like, this is about us, it's our video talking about this thing. It can be that, of course, at points, but doesn't need to be all the time. This is what I'm saying. Yeah, I did like it, though, because, he's being very respectful and like, standing up for it, and, occasionally it's like, pretty light humor. It's not super flat, like, punching down, or super evocative, whatever, but it's light and it's nice. And as a solo effort, I think, like, I was expecting a duo, but it was just the one guy. I'm sorry, I don't know their names. I think he held his own really well. I think it was like, okay, yeah, this is good. I thought it was nice. I enjoyed it. Anime's stupidest argument from Mother's Basement. I have not talked about the Jeff video in a while, and I was like, as I was starting the video, I was trying to get acclimated again to his voice and his script. His way of scripting things has been very polished and refined now, to with like, it's very predictable and similar, and you can kind of get the rhythm and cadence of it a lot. Dude's been at it for a while, you can't knock the hustle. And definitely more, this has happened with previous videos, he's probably been doing this for a little while now, him being on screen for most of it, like green screen, and then like hopping around the footage and stuff, and having a lot to do with his expressions towards the audience and stuff. I do think ultimately it's better, but I don't know if I don't think he really does What's in an OP so much anymore. I don't think he's done it in a long time, or maybe I could be wrong. I don't follow him that closely. But like, obviously he's broken away from that. That's the thing that he's known for, at this point. Probably, how many people even remember that? I do miss those days, though. I do miss the analysis, because I think he was really, really good at it. But yeah, so this is it's his regurgitating an argument that he's already made, but this time he's focusing on a different target with Scott Pilgrim. But he's not arguing for Avatar this time, which is a little more of an extreme argument. This one was kind of a swoosh, kind of easy. It's a Japanese studio, and it's being marketed as anime, and it's anime. Like, does it have to air on Japanese television? No, because several anime are not ever on television, or whatever. It's just so strange. Oh well. I do like indulging in the argument, though. I think he's I like that he's bringing up a lot of examples, and I just think that he's so visibly sick of it that, like, making this, he obviously is kind of upset and everything, or fatigued, by this kind of argument. So he's a little callous towards Mal, in the way that he's talking about them. But I can't fully knock it because, again, I mean, I'm making a similar video, and I do have an air every time I quote them. But like, yeah, so I can't fully. It did get me uncomfortable, being like, because I find that grating when he did it with the Mao quote and everything. But I'm like, but I kind of do the same thing, so can't knock it. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to be as fair as possible, really. Yeah, I think I fully agree with the sentiment, really, and I think that he's making plenty of good counters and being thorough about different examples and stuff. He's very well read in that regard. But it does get me this argument. I did tweet about this idea that, like, you know, is this considered anime or not? Is Scott Pilgrim considered anime? About how, like, you know, if these co-productions, if these like international things, if we knew that they were anime even partially back then, I don't think we would have any problem calling them anime. But it's because it's a cultural thing, and they're obviously selling it as anime to try to get the anime audience. But is it really what anime fans want? You know, I think ultimately it is still, because they're being used, you know, in a Japanese studio, and Japanese animation directors and episode directors and stuff, they have the sensibilities and the pipeline and the enough creative control, even if it's not their script or whatever. And the director is a longtime Science Saru vet, you know, like, he's not like this guest random person that's never worked with them before, you know. It makes complete sense. It has all the visual language you want out of anime, the reason we're categorizing it anime in the first place. You know, I think it is silly that these databases, and even Ya is not even seeding it, like not even putting it in their fucking site. Not that I'm encouraging you to torrent or anything, but one of the things I'm happening to notice, where I've been told about, I've been seeing that it's not on there. I do think it's silly. And it's just it's all to what end, you know what I mean? It's like, what, do we not want to talk about Scott Pilgrim? Like, why not? Like, what's wrong with it? Whereas in making that tweet, I was looking for titles that are clear Japanese co-product, like Japan largely was in charge of the animation with here, and I knew about Winnie the Pooh, I knew about Batman the Animated Series, some episodes, and this one of DuckTales season 1 was completely done by TMS, I believe. But then Inspector Gadget, I was looking, and Inspector Gadget was TMS, but the pilot episode in particular was Telecom. And that was like, I had like a citation needed on Wikipedia, so I was like, yeah, okay. But it did get me enough to be like, okay, let's look up this pilot episode of Inspector Gadget. And I can kind of tell that it's Telecom and that it's Japanese animated, but there's other creative choices that they're doing that are very, like, yeah, this isn't quite, they're kind of being told, like, where's the line? And there's no way to feasibly tell. I think it's a case-by-case basis. Where is the line of, this is their creative control, and this is how they decided to do this shot, and this is what they were told to do and commissioned to do, or with the resources of communication that they have, because they're not, the director is somebody else, or the writer is somebody else, you know? Because the script is really, it's dictating what happens in the episode. And is it really anime if it goes in this kind of Western direction where it's nothing but a cavalcade train of gags? It's like slapstick comedy one after another without any progressive narrative, you know? And not to say that anime has inherently like a monopoly on progressive narratives or something like that, and not that it's like above doing 20 consecutive minutes of slapstick comedy, but it is sort of like, look at what they're doing, look at kind of like, what are they choosing to spend their resources on, how are they telling a joke that is a Western thing versus not, you know, versus a Japanese thing. And ultimately it is sort of a, you know, we can just express and enjoy animation writ large. We should, and that's the argument Jeff makes at the end of this video. We should just be animation fans, pretty much. And I would agree. And that way, and that means it's like we should be engaging with not just Western cartoons. It shouldn't be just an us versus them. It's a worldwide thing. Jeff noticeably kept calling the situation with French co-productions a can of worms, or something like he doesn't want to try to engage with or try to make murky art. It's like murkier for some reason. I haven't looked into that myself, but like I don't see why that's any different from a U.S. co-production. I really don't see how that's any different. But a lot of that is called anime, right? I get it. It's a case-by-case basis, right? But it is, to what end are we trying to make this argument? Why are we excluding? He's like, these lines just get in the way. Jeff says that. It's just these lines of calling an anime not just get in the way. No, it's like saying, I don't know if you ever played Gaga Ball, but it's like saying the pen, the octagon that you play Gaga Ball, the walls just get in the way. No, they're there as part of the game. They're part of the framework. It's not lines. It's not drawing lines. It's a framework. It's a house, and what is in the house or outside the house. And we were just going to talk about the stuff in the house. But if you take down the walls, is it still a house? If it's a plot of land, like, yeah, I guess. Sure, this is a house, or like, this area is my property or something, like little technicalities or whatever. But that's all just splitting hairs, It is just to focus in on a conversation and an analysis. If we're saying anime does this, are we talking about this other thing? You know what I mean? And I just completely forgot this, but I buried it. But I do address this in my how to anime, how to get anyone to watch anime video. That like, if Teen Titans is an anime, no. But who really cares as long as you're watching it? But Teen Titans, Avatar, these are shows you probably grew up with, right? But this is about expanding your horizons. If Scott Pilgrim is anime or not, it's kind of stupid because, like, at the end of the day, it's a adaptation of a popular Canadian comic that's on Netflix. It's the hottest new popular thing that's, has all these celebrity voices cast in it, whatever, Like, does it need to be anime too? On top of all the popularity that it's gotten, I think you're trying to call it anime because it's cool. But like, I'm not trying to dissuade that it's anime because it is because Science Saru made it. But like, you think if any other studio made this in this exact same style and they were calling it anime, would you call it anime? Netflix sure is trying to with Castlevania, right? With these other titles that are not being made by Japanese people. And I'm not trying to say that they're better than them or anything like that, but it's a it's a burying of Western talent. It's the Western it's these Western studios that have their own pipelines and processes that we want to appreciate and celebrate, that the US, America, is capable of making an animation like this. That's great. But why do we have to like call it this label of like, oh, but it's as if the Japanese made it, guys? Like, what does that do? What is that trying to accomplish, right? And is it just for marketing? Because at this point, it's trendy to call something anime, right? But back in the 90s, when these other shows were being shipped off to TMS to be animated, you surely didn't want to know that that was being made by the Japanese, did you? You didn't want to call those anime, right? I wonder why. Anyway, the whole thing. I like the video though, Jeff. It's good. Welcome to Okamoto Kitchen. It's the OVA. It's a whole real anime. Real anime. I'm not being facetious either. I haven't looked too in like the details or whatever, but like, who cares? It is fun. I didn't even make this, like, I did not intentionally do it in this order of is this the whole thing about anime, and then here's this Okamoto Kitchen thing. It's a Los Angeles food truck, from what I'm familiar with, and I only know about this because I made several trailers for this OVA. I made a trailer for them for AX, to present at AX, their first presentation. It was before the anime was even done yet. They had sent me what their materials were, and there's like 1.5 episodes that were incomplete, that still had roughs and whatever. So that was really interesting. I was kind of in that process or whatever. And then earlier this month or last month, they wanted me to make some further trailers, so they were releasing it. So they've released the whole thing, and it's 10 minisodes, but it's stitched into kind of one about regular length OVA. And I really like that they call it an OVA, even though it's, you know, online and everything. It's you technically an ONA, but who gives a shit? It's branding, right? The OVA idea, it evokes something, right? That's the same reason why the people are calling certain things anime, at least for some people. Anyway, regardless whether this is actually anime or not, can I put this on Mal or something? Who gives a shit? This is still cool. This is really fun and cute. What I'm noticing, I'm happy. It seems to be getting pretty good reception, pretty positive reception. I believe it was crowdfunded. I didn't go into researching all this sort of thing. I only know about it because of the thing. But it seems crowdfunded, and what I also noticed was that the fans are really reacting to the voice talent. There's pretty significant voice talent in this. I don't know too many of the names. I'm not as into the dub scene, and that it was a surprise to me because I was making the trailer and I watched the whole. I had to watch the whole thing and engage with the material a lot. I didn't know any of their voices. I mean, they had the credits at the end, but I didn't look or But it was really interesting in that way that I didn't even register that would be such a selling point for this OVA. It's not like the most pretty or like super saga fest or anything, but it's very endearing, very focused, honed in cast of these owners of this food truck, and then there's kind of it's just a one-off OVA and everything. It's introducing a lot of characters, but not moving forward with like an arc for all of them. They got a lot of cameos and features, and kind of makes the world feel a little bigger. It does feel like a little shonen in that way, where it's like all these different food trucks with different appearances and vibes and stuff like that, and they're all competing against one another to get the best possible parking spot to have their food and everything. And then once they get the spot, they're competing against each other to promote like you should have our food, etc., etc. And then the various various difficulties that come with that, I guess. It's cute. It's short, because the 10 whole thing, and it is broken up in that way, as like 10 installments of sorts. But I will say it's like, despite the very limited animation, which I don't ever consider like a flaw, because I'm not one to talk with fucking some of the things I really enjoy. I care more about just like the presentation, right? The character designs are really appealing, and the music is good. I think it's very limited because there's only so much of it with a limited palette. What's interesting is there is an OP for this, but I don't remember where they place it in the. I could look again, obviously. Maybe they put it in the ED. Maybe it's considered the ED. Oh yeah, they do. Oh my gosh! And so, I'm so sorry I didn't click through the whole because I was like, oh, I've seen the whole thing, but I literally was just clicking through it. But they do give a loving memory of Billy Kametz. Billy passed away last year, and he voiced some characters in this OVA. But yeah, I like that they I just clicked around at the credits here. Yeah, and it's Magic Bus that made this. So yeah, storyboard by Daisuke Kumamaru, episode director Akira Shimizu, and everything. And it's not a matter of them being Japanese or not, but it's just sort of like, it's nice. It's really cool. Yeah. And they were really nice to work with too, for what it's worth. They follow me on Twitter and everything like that, of course. But it is really charming and cute and endearing that it's a limited frame, but I think what OVAs like this are meant to do is sort of to give you that taste and this tease of this world. And I think they take good advantage of that, having kind of like taking place over one day. I think that was really smart. And it sets it up pretty well. They got like a little Kino thing towards the end with like the grandma, or the old lady, and kind of getting Natsukashi memories and shit like that. It's just really cute, and good drawings in that little area there. But yeah, it's really nice. I was really happy to engage kind of good trailers for it. It was a fun challenge, for something that because the trailers that I've made in the past, for the most part, I made one trailer for Discotheque that for a show I I've made 2 actually. I've made a couple actually. Never mind. I was gonna make a point that like usually I'm really attached to the show that I'm editing for, and so I know a lot of the different shots and everything. This one, it was sort of like really warming up to it and like engaging with it and seeing what the best that they have, and kind of like framing it in the best possible way. Yeah, so I hope it was successful. I hope the launch was successful, and I hope the food truck's doing really well. I was really honored to work on it in that capacity, but I just wanted to shout out because it's on YouTube and everything, so you can watch it. It's a whole OVA. Yeah, really liked that. Yeah, it was a good time. Okay, now we're thought with the best videos of the week. Someone's like, I thought with the best videos of the week. The best videos of the week. I like what I've been doing recently with those. Veridis Joe, he's back. I haven't talked to him in a little while because he's Twitter stuff, not as much anime. But look, and this isn't anime either. But what I can dream, Harold. No, it's Toku. I allow Toku on AniTube Digest. There's not that many Toku videos to begin with. Granted, I don't subscribe to too many of them, but heck, I'm a Toku fan. I've seen plenty. I mean, it's Power Rangers, but it's still Toku. Come on. But yeah, it's Veridis talking about, it's Joe, so I should say it's Joe talking about, that's actual name, the Insane Glaze Fest. That was the Power Rangers movie. Awesome title. Yeah, and I don't know if I've really watched too many. You may have done this with their sorry if I've misgendered. I think it's they, but let me double check. I think I imagine their pronouns are not in the description, but I'm pretty sure it's they. So I apologize. But yeah, like I haven't seen them make a review video like this. I may have done one for High Guardian Spice or something. I think, I don't know. But I really like kind of the play-by-play and almost nostalgia critic-esque beat for the movie, kind of riffing on it. It's in the best really because I just love watching Joe's videos on a moment-to-moment basis. He has such like class, humor, biting commentary. Like it's just, it is the strange thing where like I can be pretty white knightish. I don't know if that's really the word for it when it comes to negative reviews of something. Or when it like it's like the new Power Rangers is bad, it's bad or whatever. I can be kind of like, oh come on. And obviously, I did that a lot with Mack's video earlier today. But if it's presented in just like this really savage, flippant, funny way, but ultimately the video is positive because you're talking about this movie you really like. It's like, oh, this movie's great. And but being honest about it too, of course. Yeah, it was just a really fun time. I just really enjoyed it. It's just a romp. I'm looking forward if they do more vids like this. That would be really great. Yeah, I'm sorry I have too much else to say about it, unfortunately, but it is just like really funny, and it's their clips and the good balance of like being on screen and their reactions versus the media itself, and just the sharp biting commentary on it is while still like this whips ass or what the vibe of this whips ass, even if like he's riffing on it or he's kind of like making for poking holes at it or whatever. You can still tell he really enjoys it, and it's not like, this didn't hold up very well, guys. Oh, it's kind of bad. You know what I mean? I just don't like those vibes. So this was just like a really great balance. Yeah, I love the vid. He's so good at this shit, dude. Holy shit. Doreimani. I saw the banner, so I was like, oh, that's how you... Yeah, I gotcha. The virality of Precure League season. This is my Super Bowl. This is so great to see in a video form, where Imani's talking about this process of being a Precure fan over the years, and I really loved and appreciated all the historical context and history and categorizing them into different leaks, like different versions of leaks that the fandom has experienced over the years, and the different history and stuff. It felt like it was surprisingly historical and kind of like cataloging this sort of thing, which I forget if it was one of their Doreimani videos. I forget, but like she's really good at that, of like kind of giving this like databasey full review breakdown and like really digging into stuff. And being transparent occasionally when it's like I couldn't find the leak for this other thing or like what happened there. Like she's actually, I like that she's being transparent and it's like giving a gap where like I couldn't figure that out, but yeah, it was like surprisingly historical, and because this could be more like a fun thing or kind of like an emotional opinion related thing of like the experience of being a fan, experiencing these leaks and maybe the morality or whatever. I just like that this felt very like it is what it is. This is what we go through. This is what happens every year. This is what's happened in the past. And yeah, it's just really great. And again, it's this perspective and this side of fandom in just general that I'm happy to see encapsulated in a video form, because these sorts of things happen all the time in their own individual spaces, Discords or Twitter space, people who follow communities and stuff, or whatever. And I mean, maybe it could show up on YouTube or something, but I think someone in a bigger position that Imani's in and really polished the way she has. I love the decorations and her presentation. There was, I don't know how often she's done this in other videos, but the brief break in character where she kind of becomes like this teacher almost and is describing defining the different leaks. That was really fun. Yeah, it was just like a really fun, informative, and oh my god, she's so good at this. I really love watching her vids. They're awesome. Well, of course I'm gonna like a Charles Cornell video about One Piece. That's the OP's a masterpiece. Like, say less. And I'm sorry every time if I've talked about his videos in the past with previous things that I may have repeated them myself, but I've watched a lot of his vids at this point. And look, I am not a pianist, or really a musician. So I really like that he has found an audience that really appreciates, and he's really leaned into the nerdy math kind of how deep in music has gotten. And obviously I've seen Shabu talk about it in this way sometimes, but just like it's a consistent thing with Charles. I think he's kind of really found a groove here where his formula is so basic and so classic, but I don't care how basic it is because it gets me every time, because it's all based in joy and curiosity and appreciation for something, Everything he's not really spending a lot of time that, oh, this could be better or something, or forgettable, like he's dull or something. He's always energized on camera. He's sharp. It feels like he's doing it live. I don't know how live some of these are. Like, I haven't listened to this. Can you imagine? I can't imagine if he's... I feel like he had to have been listening to this, and he's like, there can't be... It doesn't feel like a blind reaction. It's not like he's presenting this as a blind reaction or anything, but the way he reacts feels very like as if he's heard it for the first time, and then he's able to suddenly know where it is. I'm like, there's got to be some preparation here, or some vibe checking of like, yeah, this would be worth talking about in a video or something. I don't know, but he's got a good formula going, because it's just his reactions are so joyous and infectious and fun, where he's like, whoa, and it's little bits that obviously we've heard this OP, that's the first OP, tons and tons of times, and it's just like a chord that we're all familiar with, and he's like, oh, it's like, yeah. I don't know, maybe some people might think it's like he's faking it or something, but I don't know. Is he able to explain? It's the fact that he can actually explain why he thinks it's amazing and everything, and he's not faking it. Where it's like there's other parts where it's like, yeah, and of course we have to, I feel like everything felt very genuine here, and of course it's all like breaking down in a sensible way, not in a way I can follow exactly because I don't know anything about what he's talking about, harmonies and something fourths and like little all these terms that he's talking about. This is it really is like, this is probably exactly how my parents feel watching my videos. It probably is the exact same thing, being like, oh, I don't know any of this shit. It's just like, what are they even talking about? Yeah, I get it. But you can tell the craft. You don't have to understand to kind of follow it and being like, this is fun and everything. And we're learning things, even though I don't even know the first thing. But of course, he's offering his own course and everything so you could probably start to appreciate his videos even more if you take his class. Not that he's framing it that way, but It feels that way. It certainly does. It's like, yeah, okay. I don't feel it. That's not a bad thing at all. Yeah. Good luck keeping this video up. I hope it stays up and Tohei isn't a jerk. That would be nice. Yay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Of course I'm gonna love this I would much rather being kind of constructive and appreciating the amount of work that's going into the thought and creativity here, not making these big lofty fucking claims like some other people have been making about One Piece. And last I'm gonna give it best video of the week. It's not really a video. That's okay though. It's this Frogs in a Pond album. Frogs in a Pond. It's a couple of tracks from Core and other I love the credits in the description, where it's just like Core did all of these instrumentals, various vocals by Outcast Ray has two features on here, which I was so delighted to hear. I knew that I did read this going in because I had saw that like Eden said he participated in this, so I was like, oh, who else participated in this? And I see Outcast, like Ray, and obviously Ray commented on the video too. Yeah, but like this was just so exciting and comfy, and I really got to listen to it even more. I definitely should have just gone track by track and be like the vibes that I was feeling about each one. But I, from what I could take away from one listen through, which is not enough to give an actual impression review, I really should listen to it more. Just from what I recall, I loved the variety in this. It didn't feel like one consistent tone the whole way through. There was kind of a nice mix of upbeat, comfy, cathartic, really swelling, and like I think the last track was just like really big and like impressive. Yeah, it was just like a lot of great stuff. It was just had real. Oh yeah, Eden did the typewriter in one of the tracks. Yes. The vocals, I think, besides Ray, of course, this obviously feels very different. A lot of the vocals are Core, but is it all the? I think there was like one or two tracks. Yeah, Heck. Heck had a lot of his own vocals. That was really great too. Yeah, just the variety of this, and it felt like a community kind of a band thing, which is very different for Core, I think. Because I mean, Core's probably had music that has had other people involved in some capacity. I'm sure it's not completely new. But this many people involved in a project, I think just like elevated the thing, and especially kind of complements the, and not like I meant it went out and did like an analysis of the lyrics or anything, but the inception of this, of the album title and the conceptual thing, obviously the first track really calling attention to all of that. It really felt like a community thing, like a group of people putting on this performance, or putting together this album. And that communal aspect for music, I'm not trying to gas you up or anything, but like I listen to a lot of music. I listen to like Spotify or whatever, and it's always like, yeah, it's the band or there's one person and whatever, but it always feels like it's the one person's vision. Like obviously Jeff Rosenstock can't be playing all of these instruments. Like he decides on a lot of them, right? I don't know his full artistic process, but it's in such a way that's like, oh yeah, it's Jeff really. And I don't as much appreciate, or even like something like Lil Yachty's his album from January, or Lamp, even some of their stuff, like that's a very, in my mind, that's a duo, even though it's like there's very likely more people involved. There is something about this project and the framing of it thematically or whatever, that it's just like this felt like a tiny village. This felt like a lot of people coming together to make music, and that element felt very warm and inviting and celebratory. You know what else it probably was that, I guess, one way or another, but like the vocals, like they're on a key or whatever, but they're not like beautiful. It feels a lot like you're at a campfire singing something, and it doesn't necessarily matter if you're perfectly on key or something. They don't feel perfect. It doesn't feel super smooth or whatever. It just kind of like you have this tune and this melody and you're conveying it and you're engrossed in it. It kind of feels like that. So this was just super warm and inviting and like a good vibe. Such a good vibe. I loved it. Really excited about the inception of this. Just I don't know much more besides the music itself, but I'm sure that I hope this was really sad. Okay, yeah, Frogs and Pond are core and Heck specifically. Yeah, but then like including these other people and everything. I don't know, just that communal aspect, and with so many people in the involved and in the wheels and stuff like that, it just felt really impactful. I'd love to know more about this prospect or everything, and I hope there is more. I hope you guys enjoyed and got a lot of creative fulfillment in that. And yeah, I think I loved it. I did affirmation here. No notes. Who am I to give notes, right? But yeah, loved it. Okay, that'll do for this installment of AniTube Digest. Yeah, no, you guys are great. You guys have a great week. Yo, peace.